Move on to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive, and this is on the anti-profiteering under GST. Leading sanitary napkin makers Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson have come under the Anti-Profiteering Authority's lens. The NAA had written to these companies asking why they haven't passed on the benefits to consumers after the GST Council lowered GST on sanitary pads from 12% to 0%. Now, government officials tell us that both the companies have submitted their response, but the NAA is unhappy with their explanation. Why? Timsy Jaipuria is here to tell us the details. Timsy, what are you picking up based on what the responses of these two giants have been so far?
It seems like a tough road ahead for sanitary napkin manufacturers, especially the majors like P&G and Johnson & Johnson. Taking forward the issue whether sanitary napkin manufacturers are passing on the benefit of reduced GST rates or not, government officials told CNBC TV 18 that the National Anti-Profiteering Authority, that is the NAA, is unhappy with the initial response by both P&G and J&J, the two major manufacturers. Recently, P&G and J&J were called by the NAA. Post-Finance Ministry had raised concerns over the two not reducing prices on sanitary napkins to the tune of the reduction in taxes. Remember, it was on July 21 when GST Council had exempted sanitary napkins from any taxes, bringing down the levies from 12% to 0%. We now learn that the NAA has directed DG Anti-Profiteering to look deep in the allegations of profiteering against the two companies. P&G and J&J have already submitted detailed representation to the Revenue Department and NAA. The two in their representations have cited that a flat 12% reduction on all products is not possible, and NAA officials talking to CNBC TV 18 said that P&G and J&J have met them. They say that since there is a wide product range under the sanitary napkin category with separate input costs, the reduction passed on to the consumers ranges accordingly. However, as of now, the DGAP has been asked to submit a detailed report on the priority basis on this particular issue to the Finance Ministry to see whether the allegations of profiteering have any substance or not. We'll keep you posted.
Okay, Timsy, we'll of course keep getting you back as and when there is an update on that. Thanks for joining in with that. But let's take this discussion forward. Should the Anti-Profiteering Authority train its guns on specific products? Joining in now to discuss this further is tax expert Rohan Shah and MS Money of Deloitte India. You know, I'm going to come to Money first. Money, I will get into the point on the profiteering bit in just a bit, but help us make sense of the response that the two players have given, saying that a flat 12% cut is impossible. Their argument is that there are separate products, and as a result of that there are separate input costs as well, and hence the price cut can be gradual and will depend over a period of time, and a 12% is not possible. Come in on this point. What does your math tell you?
Look, the first thing we need to understand is when we try to implement Section 171, which deals with anti-profiteering, what it says is that any reduction in the output tax or any increase in the input tax credits need to be passed on to the consumers. And the language of Section 171 indicates that it is directional and intentional. So what is relevant here is the intention of the manufacturer. Now, different products, including the products that you mentioned, have different cost structures.
Correct.
And the cost structures are not dependent only on the material cost or manufacturing cost. They are also dependent on the distribution cost, on the advertisement cost, on a whole lot of other things. So when people get into a cost structure, that is the stage at which they are able to determine what proportion of the cost is represented by the indirect taxes, in this case GST. So it is, I would say, it is a very simplistic view if anyone assumes that a 12% reduction should be a 12% reduction in GST should be followed by a 12% decrease in price, because that can't happen. It depends on the manner in which the costs are stacked. Right now, the product that we are discussing is a product which uses large amount of cotton. It also uses a product which is known as dry peel cover or Nylex or whatever. Now, depending, there is a lot of packaging cost also which is involved in this. Now, some of these inputs attract tax at the rate of 18%.
Correct.
Some of the advertising services that they use to promote these products also attract GST at 18%. Now, the input tax credit on those is not going to be available to them because it is now at 0. Now, when you consider all of this together, I would feel that there needs to be a real working done, which again will not be identical for a product across companies. It could be specific to companies as well. So that is what needs to be done in order to determine what is the proportion, if any, which can be passed on to consumers.
Okay, I'll get to that point in a bit, Mani, but Rohan, comment on this point. Do you agree that it is unfair of the Anti-Profiteering Authority to crack down on products which have a complicated input structure, which have different cost structure? And do you think there should be a case-by-case analysis of if profiteering really applies on this case?
So the first issue which to me is worthy of comment is that the whole anti-profiteering structure was set up to be based on consumer complaints as a trigger for the authority to act. What has happened now is that they are acting suo moto. So even without a consumer complaint, they are of their own appraising industries to say, why have you or why haven't you done this? Therefore, from being a pure pro-consumer measure, to me, this is now becoming much more a price control measure, and that in itself is really disturbing. The other issue is that besides the factor of your tax decrease, you have to, as Mani said, also factor in what are the efficiencies or inefficiencies on credit.
Correct.
Now, you have to understand that many situations are, let's take whether it's P&G, whether it's Johnson & Johnson, whoever.
Yeah.
You are a multi-product company. You have common inputs. So let's say advertising, or let's say, audit, legal. All of these are situations where you take services at an institutional level and then you sort of appropriate those across product categories.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, it is not that the credit impact is only going to come to you in the context of a product, in this particular case, let's say the sanitary napkin. You are going to face efficiencies on credit or inefficiencies across the company, and then you need to allocate them on costing formulas to a specific product. In addition, you are seeing that inputs, a lot of primary inputs the world over are seeing volatility in terms of their consumption cost, right? So it is not that price is only a function of tax credit and tax rate. Because simple economics tells us that there are many more factors which will enter into a price formulation. So the factor that you suo moto start these inquiries, you then say, I'm not happy with what you've done. What you're really doing, and that is unfortunate, is you're almost becoming a price controlling authority, where you are saying, if I cut tax by 12, you must pass 12 as a simple benefit, otherwise I am displeased. And you're doing this at the risk of national headlines every day, being told that you're not a credible company because you're not doing what I want.
So, Rohan, what you're essentially saying is that this isn't a uniform structure. It can't be looked at linearly. It needs to be seen on a case-to-case, on a more holistic basis. But, gentlemen,